Hey Reddit, I need to get this off my chest. My name's Ella, and what's about to unfold is something I'm still processing. You ever feel like you've done so much for your family, and they turn around and treat you like you're a walking ATM? Well, let me take you back to when it all started. For context, I'm in my late 20s, and I have a decent job in tech. It's not glamorous, but it pays well enough that I can travel, indulge a little, and keep my life relatively stress-free. But for the last few years, every time my family went on vacation, somehow, I became the one footing the bill. It all began innocently enough. I started out paying for small things, meals here and there when they visited, an occasional birthday gift that wasn't quite enough to make me feel like I was being used. Then, one year, my family decided to go to the Bahamas for a vacation. It was supposed to be a family reunion of sorts, and I thought, why not? I'll cover a few expenses. You know, like helping them with the flights or covering the house rental. But that was just the beginning point. 1 year turned into 2, then 3, and suddenly, I was paying for the entire vacation. Every year. Flights, accommodations, the works. The thing is, I never asked for this. I never even offered. It just kind of happened. First, it was my parents, then my siblings, and eventually, my cousins jumped in. All of a sudden, I was the go-to person for travel money. And don't get me started on the guilt trips. It was always, Ella, we know you have the money. You're doing so well in your career. We can't afford it, and you know we need this time together as a family. You don't mind, right? Every time I felt uneasy about it, I'd push those feelings aside. I'd tell myself it wasn't a big deal because family is family, right? But after the 5th year of paying for everyone's vacation without ever receiving so much as a thank you, I started to feel, well, a little taken advantage of. I finally snapped when I received a text one day from my mom that I can't forget. I had just come back from a grueling work trip and was lying on my couch, catching up on sleep. My phone buzzed, and it was from my mom. Hey sweetie, we're planning our next trip. Just wanted to let you know it's going to be another expensive one. But don't worry, your dad and I already talked, and we've got it covered. She went on and on about how excited everyone was and how much they were looking forward to it. I didn't respond right away. I was tired, but something felt off. It didn't sit right with me that they had it covered, yet I was always the one handing out the cash. Then, that afternoon, I got a group message from my dad. It was one of those family chats where everyone chimes in, and the topic was the vacation. As usual, they were planning everything. But this time, the conversation turned into something that I couldn't ignore. My uncle, who's notorious for being blunt, casually typed in, Ella won't mind paying for this one either. She's always been our cash cow, haha. Now, I don't know what hit me harder, the fact that he called me a cash cow or the fact that my parents, my own parents, let that comment slide. No response, no call out, nothing. The message just hung there like an elephant in the room. They didn't even acknowledge it. And here I was, the one who had been paying for the trips for years, and this was the thanks I got. For a minute, I was in shock. I reread the message a few times, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. They were all in on it. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as a walking bank. It was like I'd been hit by a wave of realization. My generosity was being taken for granted. I didn't respond to the message. I just stared at the screen, my mind racing. That's when I made a decision. I was going to let them pay for this vacation themselves. I didn't tell anyone what I was planning. I didn't even hint at it. I just stayed silent, waiting for them to come to me when the time came. Fast forward to the day the next trip was supposed to be booked. My mom texted me again. Hey Ella, we're all set for the Bahamas next month. We were thinking of upgrading to a bigger house, and we were hoping you could help with the extra expenses. You know, we really need this getaway. The message was full of the usual guilt. But this time, I didn't respond right away. I waited a few hours, and then I did something I never thought I'd do. I sent them a message. I think it's time you all handle it on your own this year. I've been covering for the last few years, and it's time you all pitch in. I can't keep doing this. And then, I sat back, waiting. I didn't get an immediate reply. I didn't hear from anyone for a while, and that's when things started getting really tense. The phone calls started coming in the next day. My mom, my dad, and even my siblings, all asking the same question, what do you mean? You're really not going to help? The more they called, the more I realized how deep the entitlement ran. Ella, come on, my mom pleaded. We've always helped you when you needed us. This is family. We can't afford it without you. I didn't ask you to help me all these years. I snapped back. You just assumed, and I let it slide. But I'm done. The tension was thick, and I knew it was going to get worse. But what happened next? Well, that's where things took a turn. The next morning, I received a message that would change everything. The message I received the next morning was from my dad, and it wasn't what I expected at all. It was brief, but it hit me like a punch in the gut. Ella, I need you to come to the house. Your mother and I need to talk. Now, I wasn't exactly thrilled about the prospect of sitting down with them, especially after what had just happened. But I knew avoiding this conversation would only make it worse. So, I drove to their house, my stomach in knots. When I walked in, my mom was sitting at the kitchen table, her arms crossed, looking more serious than I'd ever seen her. Dad was pacing back and forth, clearly agitated. Ella, you don't understand, my dad started. We didn't want to ask you for money again. But this is different. We've always helped you, and now it's your turn. I could feel my heart racing. I've been helping you for years. I don't know how many times I've paid for flights and trips and houses, but I can't keep doing it. It's not fair. Mom sighed. You've always been the one with the money, Ella. Why are you being so difficult? We've always done this together. This is just a little help, a little favor for the family. Why are you making it such a big deal? Her words stung, but I bit my lip and stayed calm. It's not just a little help anymore. It's always me, and I'm tired of it. You're our daughter. You should want to help us. You owe us, Dad suddenly snapped, his voice rising. The word, "oh," made my blood boil. I don't owe anyone anything, I said, struggling to keep my composure. I've helped because I wanted to, but that's not the same as being taken for granted. My mom's eyes narrowed, and she got up from the table, walking toward me. So you're saying you won't help your family when we need you? After everything we've done for you? You're just going to abandon us? Her voice cracked, and I could see her trying to manipulate me with guilt, but I wasn't having it anymore. No, I'm not abandoning you. I'm just saying no. You all can handle it on your own this time. For a moment, the room was silent. I could feel the tension rising, but I wasn't backing down. Then, my dad, his face flushed with anger, slammed his fist on the table. You selfish little brat. We raised you to be better than this. What happened to the Ella who cared about her family? He shouted. My mom immediately jumped in, trying to back up his words. This is the thanks we get for supporting you all these years? I stood there, my heart pounding. I was done. I had been walking on eggshells for too long, doing things to keep the peace, but this was it. It wasn't just the money. It was the way they saw me, not as their daughter, but as their financial safety net. I turned to leave, but as I reached for the door, my dad stopped me. Ella, if you walk out of here now, don't bother coming back. We're done. I didn't say a word. I just walked out. The next few days were interesting, to say the least. My phone was blowing up with messages and calls from my parents, my siblings, even a few distant relatives. But this time, it wasn't just about the vacation. It was about everything I'd ever done for them. My oldest brother, Mark, called me first. Ella, what the hell is going on? Why are you being such a diva about this? We've always helped each other out. I snapped back, yeah, always me helping out. I've had enough. Mark sighed. This isn't you. What's the real problem? Why are you being like this? I wasn't going to let him gaslight me into thinking I was in the wrong, so I laid it out. The real problem is that every time we go on vacation, I end up paying for everything, and no one even cares. I've been the family ATM for years, and you all just assume I'll cover it. I could hear the hesitation in his voice. But we're family, Ella. You're supposed to help family. Help family? I couldn't help myself. You know what's funny? You've never helped me when I needed it. I've always been the one carrying all the weight. Mark didn't respond, but I could tell I had struck a nerve. It was silent for a beat before he said, okay, fine. But don't say I didn't warn you when it all blows up. That was the first taste of what was to come. It wasn't just my parents. It was the entire family turning on me. Every time I checked my phone, there was a new message, a new guilt trip, a new threat of what would happen if I didn't come through. But the thing is, I was past the point of caring. I had been pushed to my limit, and I wasn't going to fold. But the real kicker came when they all started talking behind my back. Literally. I found out through one of my cousins that my parents had sent a message to the rest of the family about me. They were making it seem like I was the unreasonable one. Ella's being selfish, they said. She doesn't care about family anymore. It was a smear campaign, and it was working. Everyone started turning against me. I was the villain now. A few weeks went by, and I was starting to feel the weight of everything. My phone had become a constant source of stress, but I didn't respond to anyone. I kept my distance. Then, out of nowhere, I got a call from my dad. I was in the middle of work, but I answered anyway. I had a feeling this was the moment things were about to take a turn for the worse. "Ella, listen," my dad said, his tone much softer than it had been before. "I'm sorry. Your mom and we've been thinking. Maybe we've pushed too far. Maybe we didn't appreciate everything you've done." I almost laughed, but I didn't. This wasn't about an apology. This was about saving face. "You think?" There was a long pause before he spoke again. "We need you for the trip. You know we can't do it without you." I wasn't going to make it easy for him. "I think you should figure it out on your own. You always said we were family." "Well, family helps each other without expecting everything in return. Please, Ella. We're sorry," he begged. "Just this once." And that's when I decided to play my hand. I knew exactly how this was going to end. But what did I do next? As soon as my dad said those words, "just this once," I felt my patience snap. I wasn't going to be the one to fix their mess this time. I had done it for years, and every single time. It felt like they took advantage of me, never appreciating the sacrifices I made. I sat there, gripping the phone, taking deep breaths. "Dad, I've been saying no for weeks now. Why do you think I'm going to change my mind just because you're begging?" There was silence on the other end. Then, my dad's voice grew more defensive. "I don't know what happened to you. You used to be different. What happened to the Ella who cared about family?" That old guilt trip again. But I wasn't falling for it. Maybe I was the one who cared too much. Maybe it's time for you all to see what life is like without me paying your bills. I could hear him trying to calm himself down. "Ella, you're overreacting. We're just asking for help with a trip. We've done so much for you." "Done for me?" I shot back. "I've done more for you than you've ever done for me. I paid for your vacations, your bills, your new car. And now, suddenly, I'm the one being selfish because I'm not going to fund your next trip? You don't get to twist this into being about me. This is about you all being so entitled that you think it's okay to use me like this." There was a long pause. I could tell my dad didn't have a response, but I wasn't finished. I was tired of being painted as the villain in their narrative. "You've taken me for granted, Dad. All these years, I've been the cash cow, as you've so kindly put it. And you know what? That stops now." "I don't believe this," he said, his voice cracking. "You've changed so much. You don't care anymore. You're not the daughter I raised." "You're right," I snapped. "I'm not the daughter you raised. I'm someone who knows better than to let people walk all over me anymore. But I guess you won't learn that until it hits you." And just like that, I hung up. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing with everything that had happened. The constant phone calls, the guilt trips, the barrage of angry messages from my relatives. It felt like they were all turning on me, calling me selfish, saying I was throwing away years of family loyalty. It was suffocating, and I was starting to feel isolated. The next morning, I got a text from my mom. It was a simple but telling one. "Ella, you've hurt us. We've been trying to make things right, but you're pushing us away. Is money really more important than family?" I sat there staring at the message for a long time. I could feel my anger bubbling up again. Money was not the issue. It was the manipulation, the constant using of me, the never-ending assumption that I was always going to be their solution to everything. I wanted to respond, but I decided to wait. I had to think this through carefully. I needed them to understand the gravity of what they were doing, and I needed them to realize they couldn't always depend on me to bail them out. A few days later, my parents sent me a message, one that was different from the others. It was an invitation to their house. They said they wanted to talk and make things right. I knew what this was. Another attempt at manipulation. I felt a sense of resolve in me. They thought they could just pull me back in with a few empty words. They didn't know that this time, I was going to make sure they felt the consequences of their actions. I showed up at their house, but I wasn't prepared for what happened next. My dad opened the door, and before I could say a word, he stepped aside to let me in. Ella, we've been thinking, he began. We've been too hard on you. And we just wanted to say, we're sorry. We didn't mean to make you feel like a cash cow. I had to stifle a laugh. He was trying so hard to sound genuine, but I could see right through him. You know, that's funny, I said, my voice calm, almost too calm. I've been saying no for weeks now, and all of a sudden, you're sorry? You're really trying to pull the wool over my eyes with this, aren't you? Ella, we mean it, my mom chimed in. We were wrong. We just didn't realize how much you were carrying. Oh, you didn't? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Because for years, I've been telling you how much I'm doing. But you all only ever saw me as the one who could fix everything. There was an uncomfortable silence. My parents shifted uncomfortably in their seats, but I wasn't done yet. I had something planned, something they would never expect. I've been thinking about your trip, I continued, leaning forward. And you know what? I've decided I'm not going to pay for it. But here's the kicker. I paused, watching them both closely. I could see the panic in their eyes. They were finally starting to realize they weren't going to win me over with a quick apology. You can't afford it. I'm not coming to your rescue this time. You'll have to find another way to make it happen. I've already decided I'm done being your safety net. I stood up, and just as I was about to leave, my dad, looking defeated, spoke. Ella, please don't do this. I didn't say another word. I walked out, feeling a strange sense of satisfaction, but I knew this wasn't over. They had no idea what I was about to do next. I didn't say another word. I walked out, feeling a strange sense of satisfaction, but I knew this wasn't over. They had no idea what I was about to do next. For the next few days, I let the silence hang between us. My parents sent me messages, of course, but I didn't bother reading them. They were all the same, pleas for me to come back, to forgive them, to be the family I once was. Honestly, it felt good to finally not respond, to not feel like I owed them an explanation. But what I didn't expect was what happened next. One evening, about a week after the confrontation, I was sitting at home, scrolling through some emails, when I got a call from my dad. I stared at the phone, hesitation in my chest. Part of me wanted to just let it ring out, but another part, a part one couldn't ignore, knew this was the moment. The moment where things would either break completely or take a different turn. I answered. Ella, my dad said, his voice trembling just enough to make me pause. We need to talk. About what? I replied, trying to keep my tone as calm as possible, though my heart was racing. You know, I'm sorry for what happened, but we've been talking. Your mother and I. We can't just sit back and let you throw everything away like this. You're part of this family. You owe us. His voice had that familiar edge to it, that one that always tried to make me feel guilty, like I was the one causing the problems. I almost laughed, but I bit it back. I don't owe you anything. You've used me for years, and I'm done with it. This isn't about family. It's about you being upset that your free ride just ended. There was a long pause. I could hear him sigh heavily on the other end. Ella, we've had a plan. A big plan. Something we were going to share with you after we got back from our trip, but I guess it's pointless now. I narrowed my eyes, unsure whether I should feel alarmed or amused. A plan? What? You're going to try to guilt trip me into coming with you on your next vacation? No, he replied, his voice turning serious. It's more than that. We were going to give you a percentage of the inheritance early. We know you've been struggling, and we thought you might want to use it to get yourself back on track. But now? Forget it. I froze. My brain struggled to process what he was saying. An inheritance? Early? Wait, I said slowly. You were going to give me money? After all of this? There was an almost bitter laugh on the other end of the line. We didn't want you to feel like we only saw you as a cash cow, Ella. We thought maybe this would help you understand that we cared about you. I sat there for a second, stunned. The audacity. The absolute nerve of them. After everything, they thought money would be enough to fix it? They thought I would cave just because they were throwing some cash my way. I took a deep breath, forcing my voice to stay steady. Keep your inheritance. It's too little, too late. You can't buy me back, not this time. You'll regret this, my dad spat. We won't be here forever. You'll come crawling back when you realize what you lost. I hung up, and for a moment, it felt like the weight of the world had been lifted off my shoulders. But I knew that wasn't the end. Oh no. They wouldn't let me walk away that easily. I was right. A few days later, as I was sitting on my couch, minding my own business, I got an email. At first, I thought it was from work or maybe spam, but when I opened it, my stomach dropped. The subject line was simple. We need to talk about this. It was from my mother. I opened it. It was a long message, full of anger and hurt. But what caught my attention was the last line. You'll see just how much family means when we're gone. I didn't understand. What did she mean by that? I checked my phone, but there were no calls, no messages. Still, the weight of that sentence lingered. When we're gone. Then, something clicked. They were going to cut me out. They were going to make me the villain in all of this, and they were going to play the victim. They were going to turn every friend, every relative, against me if they had to. They weren't just mad that I refused to pay for their vacation anymore. They were hurt because they lost their source of income. And they were going to make sure I felt the consequences of it. I wasn't going to let them. Not this time. If they wanted to play dirty, I was ready to fight back. A week later, I saw a post from my mom. It was on Facebook, shared with all of our family and friends. It was a picture of my parents smiling at a resort, holding drinks in their hands. But the caption? That was the kicker. Sometimes you have to learn the hard way that family doesn't always have your back. Just because you give doesn't mean you'll receive. Be careful who you trust. I stared at it for a while, the words sinking in. They weren't just trying to punish me. They were trying to publicly shame me, make me look like the bad guy in front of everyone. And that was where they made their mistake. Because now, I had a plan. I stared at my mom's Facebook post, feeling my anger simmering beneath the surface. This wasn't just about the vacation anymore. They were playing dirty, trying to paint me as the villain in front of everyone. It hit me hard, but I wasn't about to let them get away with it. I knew what I had to do. I spent the next couple of days pulling everything together. I had all the evidence I needed. Text messages, bank statements, and emails. Everything that showed just how much I had given them over the years. They'd been more than just entitled. They'd been manipulative, using guilt to get me to pay for their vacations, their bills, everything. But now I had the receipts, and I was going to make sure everyone knew the truth. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, I shared a post of my OWNIT was a simple status with a picture of my parents at one of their previous vacations, the same one my mom had posted, but with a twist. I attached a screenshot of a text message from my dad where he literally said, "She won't mind paying for the trip. It's her job to help us." Then I added the message, "To everyone who's been wondering what's really been going on with my family lately, here's the truth. For years, I've been paying for vacations, bills, and things that I wasn't even asked for. It wasn't out of love. It was because I was guilted and manipulated. I'm done. No one gets to use me anymore." The post went up, and within hours, it was shared by dozens of family members and friends. People I hadn't even heard from in years were messaging me, asking what had happened. Some were supportive, others were shocked. But the most important part? My parents couldn't escape it. The fallout was almost immediate. Why, Mom called me, frantic. "What did you do?" she demanded, her voice shaking with a mix of anger and fear. "You've ruined everything. People are asking questions, and now they think we used you. We were helping you." "Helping me?" I scoffed. "You were using me. Don't twist the truth to make yourself look better. The only thing you ever helped me with was enabling me to keep paying for your lives while you ignored mine." She didn't have a comeback for that. She just hung up. But the drama didn't stop there. The entire family was in an uproar, with relatives reaching out, calling me everything from selfish to entitled. My parents were doing damage control, trying to spin things in their favor, but it was clear they couldn't recover from the truth I had exposed. The reality was out, and there was no going back. A few days later, I got an unexpected call from my uncle, who was one of the few relatives who had always been supportive of me. "Ella, I saw your post. You did the right thing," he said, his voice surprisingly calm. "We've all known about your parents' manipulation, but no one had the guts to say it. You've got family here who actually cares about you, and will support you, no matter what." Hearing that honestly brought me to tears. I'd always been told that family was supposed to have your back, but until then, I didn't realize just how much support I had from people who truly cared. By the end of the week, my parents had tried to reach out, but this time, I didn't answer. The games they'd been playing for years were finally over. I was done being their cash cow, and I had made sure that everyone knew exactly who they were. The truth had come out, and for the first time in a long time, I felt free.